Hello everyone, we are live again. Back at Prestwick, ready for day 2 of the ferry flight from Gloucester to New York. So today we're going to be going from Prestwick in Scotland over to Keflavik in Iceland. This is probably the longest leg of the journey. Flight time's about 4.5 hours, maybe a little bit longer. We'll see. First things first, we'll go through the briefing paperwork just to have a look, make sure everything's correct, make sure we know what we're doing. I've actually got this working this time, so I should be able to show you all. So this is all done on AeroRouter, AutoRouter. Brilliant website if you need to do planning, anything like that. So we'll just start at the top with the flight briefing. So just make sure this is correct. We're going Prestwick, Keflavik. Today's date, estimated to be off blocks in 10 minutes time. We're in DA62. Routing is going to be the Daunt 1 Kilo to Daunt, direct to Iblob, direct to Bruce, Baku, Ratsu, Podar, Aldan, Azrun, and then the Azrun 1 Quebec. Obviously that last bit might change depending on what the weather is when we get there and the clearance, etc. So I'm going to try and bring the charts up as well whilst I'm here. So this just gives us here sunrise, sunset times. Ideally, I want to be there before it goes dark. Hence the earlier start this morning. So Keflavik, we've got to be there by 3:30. Not the end of the world. Just looks a bit nicer if it's still light, better views. ATC flight plan. This is what would normally be submitted to ATC. This just tells us the route, bits about the aircraft. This is what we'll use on the way. This is just our flight log, so I'll write down my clearance in there, and then we'll go through this. This literally just shows us each leg of the route. So for instance, Daunt to Iblob, we want to be flight level 100. Once we get to Iblob, we would expect to have 54 gallons of fuel on board. We're going with full tanks because we've got the space to do it. And then it's a 2-minute leg. How much fuel we should use, the distance of the leg, ground speed for that leg. Bit of everything, really. And then the wind for each leg as well. Next is the important bit, which is weather. So weather-wise, we look at this chart here. We can see we're crossing. It's not going to be the best day. A little bit windy. We're crossing a couple of fronts to get up there. See here, these are called isobars. So this is the different pressure levels. So we're going from a low to a high, well not high, still low, but to a higher pressure. Just showing us the distant levels, different times of the day. The ones that are important, these sort of ones. So this shows us any significant weather en route. So we can see we're going to go through this little bit patch here and this little patch here. So we'll start with this one. So when we're taking off, we're going to go through this, which is, we've got some embedded CBs up to flight level 250 and below flight level 100. It's going to be at flight level 100, so we just got to keep an eye out for them. We might catch them. It might be a bit bumpy, bit of ice. And then up here, we've got moderate icing and moderate turbulence for up to flight level 180 from below flight level 100. Again, these aren't guaranteed. There's nothing saying we are going to get this, and you know, just because you go for it, no guarantee. It's just right, we should probably watch out. That's valid at 6 o'clock this morning. The next one, this is probably more relevant for us, is the 12 o'clock. It's pretty much the same. Those isolated embedded CBs have moved slightly further north. We might just catch the edge of those. And then obviously this has come down to maximum flight level 170. Still higher than we're going to be. And we're still going straight through the middle of it. And then 6 o'clock tonight. Gives you a good idea of how everything's moving across. This is a very similar map. It's just a lot lower. This goes from surface up to flight level 450. And again, we can see this is the major bit here. We've just got a bit of moderate icing in there. So again, same as the other day. I think the biggest issue we're going to have today is icing. So from here we use what's called a grommet. This just shows us sort of a 2D depiction of our flight route. So this is pink, well, this magenta line here is the route we're going to take. You can see the different waypoints along the bottom here. You've got the ground, so you can see going up to sort of, what's that, probably 2,000, 3,000 feet just here. So the dark brown is ground we're going to be going directly over. The light brown, it's within 5 miles of our track. So looking at this, we should initially be going above the cloud level, but we're going to be sitting just on the top of it. These are these isolated, embedded CBs that we've got in there. This green area here, this is just where you've got the highest risk of icing. So it's not a great day. If we wanted to, we could sit a little bit lower. Maybe come down to flight level 50 until we get to Baku. We're in a DA-62 today, Jamie. It's a little diamond aircraft. Hello. Yeah, this level here, this is our 0 degree line, so above this is where we expect to get icing. So again, if it gets too bad, we can come down to flight level 50. Being that it's mostly over ocean though, we want to sort of stay as high as we can. So we'll see how it goes. If it starts getting too bad and we can't shift it, we can always drop down. Just gives us a quick sort of view of what the route's going to be. So we're just sort of following the coast of Scotland here, and then straight up over the sea up to Iceland. Weather-wise, then got our METAR here for Prestwick. So we've got 8:50 this morning and 9:20. So we can see at 9:20 the wind was 13 knots, 200 degrees. Visibility was fine though. A little bit of rain, and it's just scattered at 3,009 degrees. Quite low QNH today, so that's something to watch out for. And this is just like the TAF is your forecast. So the METAR is your current weather. TAF is your forecast. If you want to learn more about this, I could sit here for hours trying to explain this. So you're better off just looking online on how to decode these. Or, I mean, there's so many apps out there that will decode it for you. Forecast, it's not really an issue. We're not planning on coming back here. The big one for us is going to be the destination. So the forecast for the destination, it's valid between 9 o'clock this morning, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. We're looking to get there at around 3:15 in the afternoon. The weather is going to be fairly the same most of the day. So we've got 18 knots at 040 degrees, clear skies. Expecting a high of 6 degrees, lower 3 degrees. We've got just a tempo here, so between 1 this afternoon and 8 tonight. It might get a little bit gusty, so coming in, it might be a little bit breezy. We'll see when we get there. Mass balance, just showing us we're within weight limits. And you can see here, this is when we take off and when we land, what our C of G is going to look like. That's basically all we need to worry about, really, out of this. This is just all extra information, which is not massively important for us. Climb rates, descent rates, things like that. So, what we'll do now is we'll switch back over to Flight Sim. So here we are at Prestwick in the DA-62. Roughly where we were before, I believe. I can't remember the exact spot we parked in, but this is close enough. So, best thing to do is get on with it. So just got the checklist up here. There we go. So, the pre-flight check's complete. Baggage and tow bar is secured. Aux pumps are off. Aux power switch is off. Fuel selectors both go on. And the guard's closed. Come on. There we go. Parking brake is set. Alternate air is closed. We can't do that on this aircraft anyway. Manual gear extension handle is push. Gear selector is down. Pitot heat's off. Avionic master's off. Electronic master's off. Fuel pumps are both off. Engine masters are off, statics closed, alternators are on, which they are. Voter switches are auto, they're not, but we can't do anything about that. Anti-ice is all off, light switches are all off, circuit breakers are all in. The ELT is armed, and the flap selector is up. Lovely. So we'll turn the electrical master on. Check the rudder pedals. Check the flight controls. Check the flaps. Make sure they go all the way down, all the way back up again. Oh, there we go. So they've gone all the way down. Make sure they come all the way back up, which they do. Trims, make sure we can go forward. Make sure we can go back. Make sure it's neutral. Looks very neutral. There is a line there somewhere. Gear warning, lights, fire detector. Normally you just hit this button here, but it doesn't work in the sim. De-ice enunciation and light test. Again, can't really do the enunciation, but we can do the light test by doing that. Make sure the lights come on, which they do. Make sure we don't have any bulbs blown. Passengers instructed, safety harness fastened, doors are all closed. G1000 powered and acknowledged. MFD set to fuel. We don't have a fuel page, but we can see the fuel quantity is full. Fuel temperature is in the green. Right now in total time in service, again, not an issue. Sim, not real. Power levers are all idle, which they are. Make sure they actually work, which they do. They're idle. Turn the strobe on, and time to start the engine. So to start the engine then, again, we make sure it's all clear, no one walking around. Turn the engine master on, make sure the glow plugs come on, wait for them to go out. Advisory, which is just, we know about that. Right, they're out. Hit start, engine starts, oil pressure's rising, temperature's rising, coolant's rising. Wait for it to settle down, which it has. Lovely, and we can start number 2. There we go. Engine is started. Oil pressure I saw come up into the green. Temperature's rising. Coolant's rising. Everything else in the green, and it has settled. Lovely. Happy with all that. Normally we check the voltage and the instrument, and the load and things like that. Again, unfortunately, something that we can't do in the sim. So after the engine start, then oil pressure. Make sure those are both in the green, which they are. RPM should be 710 plus or minus 30, which it is. Fuel selectors, like before, to crossfeed. Make sure they do work on crossfeed, so they're drawing from the opposite tank. Pitot heat on. Make sure the enunciation goes out. Again, normally you check to make sure it's drawing amps. Turn that back off. Actually give us a caution, which it does. Nothing else has come up, just in case something happened to come up at the same time. It's always worth checking. Avionic master goes on. Weather radar can go on. So yeah, not the best today, but we'll make do. Again, real life you'd have to sit and think, oh, is today really the day I should be going? We're in a sim. Worst that happens, we crash, we restart. So we get on with the FMS setup. So I want this on GPS. Flight plan should already be in there. I've set the Daunt 1 kilo in there as well. We can set, let me just bring up the charts for Prestwick. There it is. We can set the ILS 110.3, just so if we had an issue and we need to come straight back, they're already set up, ready to go. Other than that, expecting runway 30, but I'll get the weather in a minute. Performance is all set. Just make sure the bug's set, which it is. VR is on. Make sure we've got no alerts. So the FMS setup, so the autopilot test, we make sure
engaging autopilot.
The autopilot comes on. Make sure the autopilot goes off again. Again, that's about as much as an autopilot test you can do in the sim. Floodlight, in case we need it, make sure that comes on and goes off. Position lights can go on as well. Fuel selectors, those go back to on. Next we'll get the weather. It's about 4.5 hours, Jamie.
Yankee 1000 Zulu. Wind 204 at 22. Visibility 6. Sky condition. Few clouds at 1,000 feet. Few clouds at 5,500 feet. Few clouds at 12,800 feet. Temperature 9er. Dew point 10. Altimeter 29.09er. ILS runway 12 in use. Landing and departing runway 12. DSR aircraft, say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact. You have Yankee.
Right, we have information Yankee. So expecting runway 12, which is a bit of a pain because I don't think we can do the Daunt 1 kilo off runway 12. So looking through the departures. I think it's just going to be more of a takeoff and fly direct Daunt. Most likely to be the OC knob, I think. So we'll go to select departure. We best change that then to, can't even read that. The OC knob 1 Lima. Runway 12. Come on, let me click the button. It's so difficult to use at times. Let's just make sure it's still got all of the route in there. So we're expecting PKE-02, Gossob, PKS-03, and then Oknob at 6,000 feet. All altitude restrictions match up with what we've got, and then en route from there to Iblob. So it's just got rid of a Daunt, which is understandable because we're not going via Daunt. So let's get our clearance.
Prestwick Tower Night Flight 001 IFR to Keflavik, ready to copy.
Night Flight 001 is cleared to Keflavik Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 12 climb and maintain 9,000 feet. Departure frequency is 119.875, squawk 6647.
Night Flight 001 cleared to Keflavik Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 12 climb and maintain 9,000 feet. Departure on 119.875, squawk 6647.
Okay, so we're taking off at runway 12.
Read back correct. Contact ground on 118.15.
Lovely. We've set the squawk, which is a little code that ATC can see in the FMC here. She's cleared us to climb and maintain 9,000, but as we're going on the Octob 1 lever, we do need to obviously stick to the restrictions that we've got on there. So initially, it's 3,500 feet. Until reaching Gossob, then 4,000 at PKS-03, and then 6,000 at Oknob. So I'll set 3,500 initially. So we can just set everything, make sure everything's set correctly. So the altimeters are set, 2.909, just got to set the standby. Very low pressure today, so it takes a little while to come down. This is what I was saying before about the difference. You see, we're actually at 60 feet, and that was saying if we got the pressure wrong at standard pressure, which is what you'd do if you're on flight levels, if you're above. In the UK, it varies, sort of 6,000 feet, 8,000 feet. You could very quickly find yourself at a bit of an issue if you think you're at 900 feet and you're actually at 60 feet. Yeah, you could have, you know, big problems there. That's what I was saying. With low pressure, you definitely need to check. So 2909, 2909, that's both in there, lovely. Transponder, we've checked the code, 6647. And we have got T's and P's all in the green. Lovely, we can get our taxi clearance.
Prestwick ground, night flight 001 with Yankee ready to taxi IFR.
Night flight 001 taxi to and hold short of runway 12 via taxiway Alpha. Contact tower on 127.155 when ready.
Taxi to and hold short runway 12 via taxiway Alpha night flight 001.
Lovely, we've got our clearance there. Now, this is the only assist I do have on in this is the taxi line, and this is just purely down to the fact that the airports aren't. Some of the airports aren't 100% correct. So trying to view them on a chart, it could be completely different to what you get given. And sometimes, like here, these said follow taxiway Alpha. That's okay. Sometimes I've had it and it just goes follow taxiway. And you go, that's great, but there's 12 of them. Which one? Right, let's take the parking brake off. Set a little bit of power to get moving. And we are away. It's all clear, so I'll just go straight ahead. There we go, that's updated itself. So off blocks, about 10 minutes late, that's fine. We're within the 15-minute window for the flight plan. Wonderful, there's a van coming the opposite way. We'll go around him, eh? Don't think he's supposed to be there somehow. So it wants me to cross here. Okay, we haven't been cleared to cross. This is what I was saying before with the way it's set up. It's not great sometimes. So we are on. So he said take Alpha, and we're actually on Tango in real life. We'll make sure it's clear. We'll have to go on the fact that we're cleared to cross it. In real life, obviously, you'd go, just want to check I'm definitely clear to cross. Maybe a little bit more professional, but you get the idea. The ATC is not, it's the built-in one is not great in this. And again, rather than just taking us straight across, it's taking us halfway up the runway and back again. But some unknown reason, we don't know why, for the sake of the sim and the fact that it's going to save us about 10 minutes, we're just going to go straight across. So once we get to the line, it's just our before takeoff checklist, which we go through, and then we're ready to go. Do as well is whilst we're going, I'll set the heading to about 120, just so we know we're lined up with the correct runway. There we go. It's a massive taxi, this is. We've still got a third of a mile to go. Again, normally I could just go from here and just take an intersection as a take, especially something like this, because I know I'm going to be able to take off before the end of the runway. But again, with the sim, I don't know whether it will then pick up I'm actually at the holding point and whether it will actually let me ask to take off, which is why I'm going all the way to the end. Nearly there though. As long as we're in the air within the next 15 minutes, we should be able to land in Iceland before it gets dark. Here we are, just coming up to the holding point now. Right, lovely. So put the brakes on and do our before takeoff checklist. So the parking brake is set, safety harness fastened, adjustable backrest are upright, pilot and passenger doors are all closed, no warning annunciations for doors, circuit breakers are all in, electric elevator trim works and is set to neutral, fuel selectors are both on, rudder trim is neutral, flaps to take off. Flight controls, full forward, full back, full left, full right, full left rudder, full right rudder, and back to centre. Everything's T's and P's are all in the green. We can't do an ECU test on these because it's not modelled. Pitot heat will have on. Ice protection we don't need on just yet, but we probably will need to put it on in the climb at some point. Fuel pumps, those can both go on. MFD is set for what we want. Parking brake. Next is release, but we won't release it just yet. We're clear to go. So we can get onto the tower. Press that
Crestwick
takeoff
Tower,
clearance.
Night Flight 001, ready to go runway 12
Ready
IFR
to
to
go.
Keflavik.
Okay.
Night Flight 001 cleared for takeoff runway 12.
Cleared for takeoff runway 12, Night Flight 001.
Okay, we'll set the transponder to out so he can see us, and we'll get the landing light on. We'll get lined up on the runway. There we are, and everything lines up, so we're definitely on runway 12. We'll start the timer, we're clear to go, everything's in the green. Set full power. Which, there we go, full power set. And away we go. Look for around 76 knots to rotate. Bit of left rudder, just because the torque from the props makes us go to the right. Rudder is just so sensitive. There we go, we're up. Bit windy. The gear up. Pitching up initially for about 93 knots per climb. To the right, just to get back on track.
Night Flight 001, contact Scottish
Flaps
Center
up.
on 119.875.
119.875 for Night Flight 001.
Right, so let's bring that power back to about 95% now. Max continuous thrust.
Scottish Center Night Flight 001 is at 1,000 feet, climbing 9,000 feet.
Night Flight 001, Scottish Center, continue as planned. Altimeter 29.09.
So about 1,300 feet per minute in there, and we'll engage the autopilot. All goes a little bit nuts when you set the autopilot. Yeah, that's why it was a little bit bumpy on the way out. 26 knots straight across. Okay, so we've got about 1,000 feet to go before we get to Gossob. We'll just start bringing that back to about 1,100 feet, sorry, about 1,000 feet per minute. Again, just for airmanship. Make sure there's no one above us, and we're going to start setting off their warnings. So we've got a temperature of about 2 degrees. We're just going into the cloud. We know it's going to get a bit colder as we go up. Just as a precaution, we'll set the de-icing to normal. So we're just starting to level out at 3,500 feet. We'll start bringing the power back. just to about 60%. We can get the landing light off now and the fuel pumps. And now we just hold this until Gossob. From Gossob we can climb to 4,000 feet and then it's 6,000 after that. Looks like we're just coming out on the, well, we're just on the top of these clouds. Hopefully once we get to Gossob and we start climbing, we'll be above them, not the de-icing off again. We've got about 2 miles until Gossob. Yeah, we're just approaching Gossob. We know we can climb to 4,000 feet from here. So we'll just set 4,000 and the altitude window. Gone past Gossob, well there we go, we can start the climb. Get a little bit more power, back up to about 95% power.
Night flight 001, please expedite your climb to 9,000 feet.
Right, he just wants us to go straight to 9,000 feet. It's going to start shouting at me and probably cancel the flight, the IFR, if we don't do what we're told. So what we'll do, we'll treat that he's basically said you're clear to ignore what's on the plate and do what I tell you, which is climb to 9,000 feet. So we'll just carry on straight up to 9,000 feet. So we've got 95% set. Just coming up now above these clouds. We'll keep the de-icing on for a little bit as we go through a few big ones here. And there we are, above the clouds. You can knock the anti-ice, the icing off. Oh no, that's it, switch to high. Come on. Go down. There we go. Picked up just a little bit of ice in there as we went through. Nothing to be concerned about. Just get a little bit of power. So we'll go for about 1,000 feet feet per minute again, as we've got about 1,000 feet to go. Still holding around 90 knots, which is fine.
Flight 001 climb and maintain 12,000 feet.
Right, okay, again, for some reason he's giving us
Climb and
12,000
maintain
feet.
12,000 feet.
Even though I
Night flight
specifically asked for
001.
10,000, so we're going to just say we want to reduce by 2,000 feet.
Scottish Centre Night Flight 001. Request 10,000 feet.
Night flight 001 climb and maintain 10,000 feet.
Go for 1,000 feet a minute again.
Climb
Okay,
and
it's gone to
maintain
10,000.
10,000 feet. Night flight
Don't really want to be
001.
going above 10,000 if I can help it again. Normally be on oxygen at that point, just because risk of hypothermia. Hypothermia? What am I about? Hypoxia. This does have oxygen built in actually. I've got a little lever down here and the little oxygen tanks on board. You know, I've got a mask on. Or there's little ones, it's almost like little tubes up your nose that you can get, but ideally if we can do it at 10,000, we'll do it at 10,000. We saw the weather, we saw that 10,000 should keep us just up, worst case scenario, sort of just on top of the clouds, and from what we can see here, yeah, I think we're going to be above most of the weather most of the way, aren't we? We might catch just a little bit every now and then. There we go. Start bringing that power back to around 60% now. And that's basically it. We've reached our cruise altitude. We've got our route in. Now we sit and relax. The autopilot's taking care of everything. We'll keep an eye on that as we go. Keep updating the heading. So the heading bug matches with what we're actually flying. So I'm going to be about there somewhere. Weather all still looks pretty okay. Looks like we are going to be above it for most of it. A couple of big things to look out for. So as we said, there's embedded CVs. There's one over there, just sticking out the top. Might be one or two ahead of us. There's one directly ahead of us. Annoyingly, I don't think you can have for a weather diversion on this. So as we get close, I'll turn the anti-ice on. We're not going to be in it for long. In reality, I'd speak to AC and go, just want to, you know, being the wind's coming from the left, it's going to be pushing that cloud to the right. I'd probably say we want to just go 30 degrees to the left for a little bit and then back on track once we've passed it. I mean, we might get lucky, it might move by the time we get there anyway. It's going to be a bit close, but we'll see. Thank you, Eagle, for the follow. So we're basically going, what we've done so far is we're now pretty much back to level with the airport. We're doing a nice circle. So today we're doing Prestwick to Keflavik in Iceland. So we started, last time I did Gloucester up to Prestwick, we've got Prestwick to Keflavik today. Next time it's going to be Keflavik to Narssuaq, I don't know how to pronounce it, in Greenland, and then across to Canada, and eventually down to New York. Probably via Maine or something like that. We picked completely the wrong time of year to do this route. So the weather, I don't think is going to be on our side at any point. All drinks be served. I mean, I've got a bottle of Coke with me. That's about as close to I think I'm going to get. That's what this needs, just these little aircraft need, just cabin crew. I just need cabin crew just sat in the back or something. Just to hand me drinks. It's the DA62, Diamond DA62. Quite a nice aircraft, actually. It is. They are very, very nice aircraft. All carbon fibre. I think the 62 is a 7-seater as well, which is not bad. It's got two Mercedes, well, the Austro engines are basically Mercedes A-Class diesel engines. So it looks like we missed the first CV that was embedded, and now we've got another one dead ahead of us, where we're bound to pick up quite a lot of ice, quite a lot of turbulence, I imagine, but we'll see. Again, we'll see when we get there. Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, I'll try and keep the YouTube channel updated with the streams after I finish them. Well, that alert box had a massive delay on it. I've only just noticed actually how good the weather is in this. Like, those clouds are actually changing as time goes on. Like the shape and the size of them. We're still going to hit them and it's still going to be pretty uncomfortable, but in real life I fly a 737-800. So sort of, say fairly modern, but still about 10-15 years old. But as about as modern as you're going to get for a 737. I have trained on the Max, but I've moved airlines since then, and the new airline isn't planning on buying any Maxes, which I'm quite happy about, actually. Well, I mean, it's not the biggest in the world. Like, quite a lot. Feels small when you're in it. Right, so we're just going up on this weather. I'm just going to knock the pumps onto normal with the de-icing, just to avoid anything. I mean, the weather radar doesn't look pretty. All red and pink, which is a lot of ice and a lot of turbulence. So this should be fun. Like I said, in real life, you probably wouldn't do this flight today. You'd probably look at the weather and go, yeah, I'll do it another day. But it ain't a sim. Why not? If I do this, we might actually be able to just watch the ice start to build up. But just it like that, so I can keep an eye on the speed as well. It's just instant, isn't it? I set the pumps onto high. Turn the air on as well, make it nice and warm, stop the windscreen freezing over. Flying lesson today, yeah. This is the issue. Like, even on a day where you look outside and go, oh, it's quite nice, and then I had that when I was doing my training. I'd get to the airport and I'd be like, left my house, lovely weather, get to the airport, it's either foggy or it's completely like, you know, you've got a cloud level of, you know, cloud base and 300 feet or something ridiculous, and you go, yeah, I'm never ever taking off today. It does get a bit easier once you get an instrument rating, but even then, especially if you're in an aircraft that hasn't got any de-icing on it, this time of year, you kind of just write it off. As you can see, even with de-icing, you're not guaranteed anything. I mean, I've got the de-icing set to maximum at the moment, which in real life means we've got about 30 minutes of de-icing, and it's just not even touching it. The briefing at the start, the weather, there was that small patch where it did say we're going to get a bit of ice around now, actually. In fact, I'll bring it back up so I can see it. This will be interesting to see how close the weather forecast is to the weather. So, should be just in the tops, which we are. Yeah, it gets a little bit worse later on as well, apparently. But we'll keep an eye on it. As long as the speed doesn't drop too low, we'll be fine. No, not at all. I was furloughed back in March, and I've done about 2 flights since then. And it's unlikely I'll be back before next March. It's ridiculous this year with COVID. Really busy the start of the year, like sort of January, February was absolutely rammed. March was fairly busy, but most of March was rescue flights because obviously we knew we were going into lockdown, so we were bringing people home before sort of flying out empty, bringing people home, and then yeah, as soon as the lockdown hit in March, that was it. But I still have a job, so I can at least be grateful. So, we've picked up quite a lot of ice. I've got it set to high. We're still at 60%. Speeds come down a little bit. Doing about 120 knots. We're absolutely fine. If it starts getting down towards sort of 90, that's when we need to start worrying. From what I have seen, though, just messing around and with this aircraft and stuff in flight sim, is that even when it's completely iced over, worst case scenario, just give it an extra sort of 5-10% and it holds fine. We've got extra fuel, I purposely bought extra fuel anyway for that reason. But it's nice at the moment, so we'll leave it at 60% and see what happens. I say, ATC's been rather quiet today. Just leave them to it. One of these days, what I need to do is work out how I can add just a little overlay of a map or something with the flight, so you can actually see where we are. Especially when it's, yeah, like this. At the moment, we are... How the hell do I pronounce that? We are currently near somewhere called Lochgilphead. 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 Lochgilphead? Lochgilphead? Does that sound right? That's where we are. Over some hills in sort of northern Scotland. We're not a million miles away from Glasgow. Sort of the little islands west of Glasgow. a little bit bumpy. I think this is what the majority of the flight's going to be like. It's just going to be skirting for the tops of these clouds, picking up a bit of ice, getting a little bit, a little bit bumpy at times. I mean, if we need to, worst case scenario, we can drop down to about 5,000 feet. We'll be out of the ice, but it's going to be bumpy as hell, and we're going to be in cloud the entire time. Choo choo and a rocket. Okay, fair enough. I mean, going straight down at high speed, that could end up how this flight ends up at some point, we'll see. But hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully we get there in one piece. Yeah, it's, to be fair, actually, the wing's not too bad. It's the engine. I mean, that's still not what you want to see. The engine is just completely frozen over. It does, but that's why the rest of the engine is okay. It's the intake which freezes over, because the actual sort of combustion chamber and everything, that's sort of back here. You can see the exhaust just on the back, but the intake gets that's where the issue comes. So I think, to be fair, the way it models it on here, I think it actually does it quite well. So we've got the de-icing on, which is doing a fairly good job on the wings, but the intake on the engine is a little bit frozen over. I mean, that's not really the end of the world, because we don't have any sort of de-icing on the blades or anything. So you can't really, other than get out of it. We have got de-icing, but it only applies to the wings, which is why the wings aren't too bad. There's a thin layer of ice, but not too much. As for the engine, on this, as far as I'm aware, there ain't really anything we can do. I mean, it's not causing an issue. We dropped a few knots. We should be about 100. We should have a true airspeed of about 150, and we've got 137. So we've dropped about 10 knots ish. Which, if there is a bit of ice on the intake, again, that's, if anything, that could be just be we've got slightly less power than normal. That with the little bit of ice that's on the wing. But it's holding fairly steady, and I don't think it's going to get any worse than this. I think as far as the game's concerned, that's as bad as it gets. If I actually turn this off, then yeah, maybe it'll be a bit different. But we'll see. Oh, the Alaskan Airlines. Was that the man on the wing? Was that one? Let's have a look. Alaskan Airlines, Las Vegas. Yeah, the guy climbing on the wing. That's fucking nuts. Like, I don't really see what he expected to happen, to be honest. I mean, the guy's fucking nuts. As far as I'm aware, the aircraft was at the hold ready to taxi onto the runway. Like, why would you go that close with the fucking engines running? Literally, it is just suicidal. I did laugh slightly when he fell off and face planted the floor. Not gonna lie. That was quite funny. As far as I'm aware, I think that might have been a max. I'm pretty sure it was a max actually because of the split wingtips. And the only thing I can think is on the back of the engine on the max, it's almost like spikes. It's like it's hard to explain it. But the way the way the back of the engine's designed, so I can only think he's literally just climbed up that. That's like, almost like a ladder. Oh, the ice is starting to melt. Perfect. So it does work. It does actually work, the icing on this. They are. Lawson Glav 294. Oh. Shouldn't I say you pronounce it Lawson Glav? Lawson? I don't know. I wish you could, because that could be interesting. But you can't, unfortunately. Oh, so we are coming up now on the waypoint Bruce. What a name. So according to the paperwork at Bruce, we should have around 50 gallons left. We've got a bit less, but that's fine. We've still got more than enough for the actual flight. Got about, what's that, 42, 43. So from Bruce to Baku, this is quite a long bit now. This is an hour and 42 minutes to the next waypoint. How far to Iceland? So, where are we? We've got... I'll see actually, I have to look on the paperwork. Give me a second. So we've got another 721 miles to go. And we're doing 152 knots. So 720 nautical miles at essentially what is 152 nautical miles per hour. There are your papers. Jesus Christ. So we picked up a little bit more ice again. So what we lost, we picked back up, which means we dropped back down to sort of 120 knots. But that's fine. Takes us a little bit longer to get there, but we're doing absolutely fine on fuel. You should put the radio on though. I have actually got it set up to if I need to play a little bit of background music. Let's have a look. Bit of Radio 4 on the Archers and all that. Yeah. How about a bit of... There we go. A bit of background music for you. You'll have to let me know what the volume's like, because I have no idea if that's really loud, really quiet. It's a bit loud. Give me a second then. Is that a bit better? Bit quiet, Jesus Christ. About there then, how about that? Just now we're in a quiet bit of the song now, but... Yeah, it's just nice. As long as you can hear me, that's all that matters, really. It's quite relaxing, isn't it? It's a bit like white noise, isn't it? It's just that constant drone. Not anymore really, which is a shame. It's just too expensive now, really, to justify as much as I'd love to. If I ever won the lottery, I'd probably buy one of these, to be honest. Nice DA62, you can just go, chill, fly wherever you want. I mean, I miss that so much from my training. I do my hour building, I could just sit and be like, right, where do I fancy going today? Just jump in and fly somewhere. Great feeling. It really is the ultimate dream. I started back when I was about 14, 15 with the Air Cadets, doing a little bit there. I think my first actual go at flying a plane was actually just before I started the Air Cadets. It was my grandparents actually bought me a glider flight, just at a little airfield near me. Absolutely loved it. Was with the Air Cadets, started doing a bit of flying with them, only sort of every now and then. And then I think I actually started proper lessons about 10 years ago. So I would have been about, probably a little bit longer actually. I was about 15, 16 I think when I started proper lessons. Did that for a few years. I'd say I did it for a few years. I think I did it for about a year or two. Got as far as doing my first solo circuit, and then that was about it. Ended up going, obviously finishing school, going to uni, just had absolutely no time flying. Left uni, and then started training full time after that, and then that took about 18 months. So all in all, yeah, it's been probably about 15 years. Something like that. No, about 13, 14 years. On and off of actually flying. And obviously now I do it. I say I do it all the time now. Up until March this year, I did it all the time. What about you, man? You said you're training. Whereabouts? Where did you train? Oh, nice. Bloody hell. Oh, that'd be amazing flying around Australia. It's one place I've never been, actually. Oh, congrats, man. It's a long process, isn't it? Like, not something that happens overnight. Australia, that does sound like it'd be really good fun. For a start, I imagine the weather's nicer than it is in Britain, because it's just awful here. This is it. This is most days. Oh, nice. bumpy. It is very bumpy at the moment where we are. And lots of ice, lovely. God, these clouds are just... this game is impressive, like, the quality of the weather and everything is just amazing. I really need to stop calling it a game, because some people get really pissed off if you call it a game. It's a simulator. It's not accurate enough to be a simulator, if you ask me, but yeah. Maybe once you've spent a few £1,000s on mods and aircraft and things like that, then it gets a little bit more realistic, but it's not too far off, I suppose. I suppose I never thought about that. I suppose I never really thought about what the weather's like in Australia. I always just sort of assumed it was, you know, hot, sunny, you know, beach going weather every single day. I think that's what all the adverts and that over here make it out to be. Come visit Australia. We have amazing weather and amazing beaches. They kind of forget to mention about the fact that I suppose it's not sunny every single day of the year.